What's up, guys? Cameron here from Drums and Drams, and today we've got the second episode of the Weekly Dram in 2024. For those of you who didn't catch the first episode in this new series, the Weekly Dram is going to be a new video released every Monday where I'm able to kind of take a look back and recap previous weeks. We can talk about what went right, what went wrong, if there was any criticism or feedback in the comment section of videos or over on Patreon. I'm also going to be able to preview upcoming weeks on the channel. I'll let you know which videos to expect, if there's going to be a live stream any given week. Basically, a weekly way for us to stay in touch a little bit better and set expectations on Drums and Drams. And if you ever have any questions you want me to answer in these weekly episodes, feel free to drop them in this comment section or on any other video. Let me know you want me to answer those on the Weekly Dram, and I'll do my best to get to as many of those as I can. And last but not least, because this channel is about tasting whiskey, I'm going to always try to have a whiskey comparison review portion of the Weekly Dram from week to week. I can't always guarantee it, I guess, but there would be no reason not to include it, I don't think. And of course, you can see in front of me right now, we have a Larceny Barrel Proof Bonanza, really just focused on this, which is the new batch A124, seemingly out a little bit early this year. And I want to say thank you to Adam B for sending this my way. It's always nice to have the opportunity to get something at cost that I normally wouldn't see here in Ohio without standing in a line that's hours and hours long. So thank you for sending this my way, man. We're going to get to that in just a second, and we might do some comparisons to these other batches I have on the table. We'll see where it goes. Last reminder before we talk about the recent happenings on the channel, it's just that these weekly drams are meant to be unedited or mostly unedited. Saves me a little bit of time, so I apologize if there's any catastrophic shenanigans that happen. They're probably going to stay in the video. So let's talk about the recent happenings here on Drums and Drams. Of course, 10, 12 days ago or so, we had all the laser code drama, whatever. But after that, I decided we were getting to the end of 2023, and I thought, let's do a top 5 whiskeys of the year, which is not something I've ever done on the channel. And I knew that it wasn't going to be a big formal thing. It's not going to be like Fred Minnick's top 100. It's not going to be like magazines that do top 20s or 25s. It was really, at this point, I didn't have a lot of time. It was really going to be my top 5 bottles with 0 rules in place. And that's exactly what happened. You can look at that list. I dropped those videos 5 days in a row, 1 per day. You can look at that list, and I'm being 100% honest that these are the top 5 bottles with no accessibility or availability or affordability in mind. Just the best stuff that I tasted this year that I still had bottles of or samples of to taste in preparation for that. So I think there's something to be said about that, but I received a ton of, let's call it incisive criticism. Some of it, vitriolic, some of it just constructive feedback. But either way, I received a lot of feedback on this, and it was well-founded. Like, I totally deserved what I got in those comment sections because I included single barrels from basically store picks. In this case, I had 2 Bourbon Junkies Patreon single barrel picks in the mix. That alone just doesn't look good on me. It looks weird. I fully respect and understand that, but those did deserve to be on that list. I had no reason to really put those on there if they didn't deserve those spots. But also, the accessibility problem is that no one's going to be able to taste a few of those things that I had on that list. There's other arguments for and against that, but at the end of the day, I think moving forward to next year, I'm going to take all of the criticisms and the feedback. I'm going to kind of compile all of that, talk to those on the Drums and Drams Patreon, and find the best way forward, whether it's to do 2 or 3 different lists. Maybe one is for single barrels, one's for allocated, one's for accessible, something along those lines. What the process is going to be like to get there. What ground rules we're going to set. Is it going to be, a minimum 500 bottle release like Fred Minnick does for his top 100? I don't know, but we're going to figure it out, because anytime there's feedback here on the channel, I want you to know that I take that stuff to heart. The good, the bad, the ugly, no matter what. I read most of the comments. I can't respond to all of them. It's just the nature of what it is. But I read all of it, and I'm always thinking about how I present information, the information I present, tone of voice, just everything. I'm overthinking all the time, and So I just want you to know that is the case, essentially. And I'm always going to try to continue improving things here on the channel, as my time allows for me to continue editing and honing everything. So I don't want to beat a dead horse there, but it was an interesting week for me to really sit and reflect on that process, and I'm glad it's over. I'm glad we can move to some new content now. So speaking of new content, let me tell you what's coming up this week on the channel. I've got my phone here so I get it all right. And by the way, guys, this last week, Sarah and I went out to the comedy club here in Columbus. It was a club. It was not a theater. We saw Tim Dillon. Some of you might know Tim Dillon if you're comedy fans. Wasn't sure how the stand-up was going to be. He's a great podcaster. I love his rants. I'll tell you what, top 3 show for me. Shane Gillis, Dave Attell, and now Tim Dillon. Really, really good. I mean, just fall out of your seat laughing. So if anybody's a Tim Dillon fan, he's coming to your town. I think it would be a great show to see. But upcoming videos on the channel this week. Today's obviously Monday. Tomorrow, Tuesday, a long-awaited review, not from me specifically, just across the whiskey world right now. We've all been waiting on Old Forester 1924, which is the new 10-year addition to the Whiskey Row lineup. I'm going to have that video out tomorrow. Very excited for that. And I think there might be 1 or 2 other reviews out at this point. I haven't watched them yet. I don't like to watch or read things before I do my own reviews. Wednesday, blind flight. My friend Frank gave me 2 blind flights. Going to do one Wednesday, and that's going to be on a video. And then Thursday, I'm going to do a blind flight on my live stream. It's his second blind flight. Don't know what else I'm going to do on the stream, so stay tuned for that. Friday night is what those 2 blind flights are preparing for, which is on the whiskeychannel.com's YouTube channel. 9 p.m. Eastern is the time I think we're doing it. Matt Madness, Matt versus the previous Champions edition. That is sure to be a good time with Grease, Dan Shook, Matt, Shayla, David, Kira, and Bill Kavanaugh is the one who kind of put everything together. So that's going to be cool. And then Sunday, another Scotch Sunday with Lagavulin 16, a classic Isla bottling there. There might be some other pop-up videos this week, 1 or 2. I'm not sure yet. I talked about on the recent live stream on the channel, I think this past Saturday, of doing a couple little performances, like little performance videos plus whiskey tastings. This new idea I've got. I don't know if that's going to happen this week, but maybe next week. We've got a George T. Stagg flight coming, best finished whiskey of the year, rye recommendations for 2024, Ralphie Scotch of the year, just all sorts of stuff. So stay tuned and keep an eye out for some pop-up videos like that. Also coming up this week for me, musically, I'm playing a Phil Collins / Genesis tribute show this weekend. So I got to get my xylophone chops. I'm not playing drum set on this one. Great band coming in, but I'm just playing some mallet stuff and some congas and everything. All right, let's get on now to this Larceny Barrel Proof A124, this new batch. Again, 124.2 proof or 62.1% ABV. I've got B523, C923, C922 out in case we need to do some comparisons. But let's check this out now on the nose and see what we get. All right, so pretty standard Larceny Barrel Proof first impression. So what do I mean by that? First off, ethanol kick. These are always hot. That's my biggest complaint about Larceny Barrel Proof. Besides the fact that maybe the profile is not my favorite, if the ethanol was more in check, I think it would just be a much better whiskey. But it's 6 to 8 years old is what they say. Yeah, ethanol up front. Standard Heaven Hill nuttiness. Standard Larceny Barrel Proof baking spices, sharpness, sharp cinnamon. This one has some fruit notes to it. It's taken me kind of 2 different directions. One is grilled peaches and one is your kind of standard bourbon cherry, like Luxardo cherry kind of note. But maybe a little more emphasis on that grilled peach, like that more mid-range fruit note. And then if I'm kind of digging deeper into the glass, I would say that there's something chocolatey about this, but it's not like deep, rich, dark chocolates. It's more of like a surface level, maybe like cocoa powder, let's say. Maybe a little bit of oak on the back end, but it's more of that kind of fresh, young, vibrant oak, not the kind of aged oak note that you would get on an Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. So on the nose, this is not necessarily impressive in any way. To me, it reminds me of just standard Larceny Barrel Proof. But again, I'm not the biggest fan of the profile overall. So take this with a little bit of a grain of salt. Maybe a comparison to these other batches will be more revealing to kind of how this fits into the lineup. But let's do a sip now. Cheers. All right. So first sip, the palate's got to acclimate to the intensity of the Larceny barrel proofs. Weirdly, I'm getting kind of like a pineapple note, like pineapple with like sugar sprinkled on it or something. It's very kind of granular on the palate. Very, yeah, like almost like you're just eating like the sugar in the raw packets with those kind of larger granules of sugar, I guess. It's got some of that on there. And I guess I want to say brown sugar is maybe more accurate here. But yeah, a weird pineapple note on the first sip. Let's go in for one more. Okay, so palate acclimated now. Second sip, I can get past the ethanol, past the sharp spices, and past kind of the weird sugar forward quality of this. And that chocolate note is definitely there. So on the palate, it is coming off a little bit better. It's less cocoa powder, more of like straight up milk chocolate. I like that. And on the back end now, what's hanging around is, again, that kind of weird sugary sweetness on my tongue. So interesting. I can't say this is any more than an average bourbon for me upon first nosing, first tasting. But before this filming started, I did compare it to these other batches. Recently on a quick live stream I did, I compared all of the 2023 Larceny barrel proofs blind. The results shocked me. I imagined the B523 would win. It came in last. I imagined C923 would come in last. It won, which means A123 was second place. So I have B523 here, which I thought was my favorite. A nice kind of balanced dark batch. Little raisin, a little dark fruit on here. And I think that's why so many people liked it. But in the blind flight, it fell flat. It felt like there was just nothing going on there, dead in the water. But when you compare B523 to this new A124, there are definite similarities to the profile. Like, what it feels like to me is A124 is B523 turned up a little bit more, like a little bit more intensity, even though the proof is lower, strangely. It's got a little more intensity, but it's also more rough around the edges in terms of the ethanol. So it's like, what do you value more? The balance, but maybe flatness of B523, or do you want that intensity of A124? On the palate for B523, yeah, it's very kind of placid. A little pop on the front end, and then it just kind of sits. Not a lot of spice after the initial punch. It's all just kind of flavor, and that's nice. But A124, this is intense the whole time. It hits you, and then that Pop Rocks kind of peppery spice keeps it going all the way back. Now, last comparison we're going to do today is to C923. I said I was going to do this on this video on that Larceny blind flight live stream a couple days ago. And so here we are, C923, the winner of that flight. And this is so much brighter on the nose, so much sweeter, but brighter. It smells like honey butter. Like, that's the best way I can put it. Smells like honey butter on toast. Some people are going to love this. Some people are going to think it smells a little youthful. That's kind of where I sit, but I also like the sweetness of it. All right, one sip of this. But C923's palate is very good because it has enough spice to keep it interesting, but it also has enough sweetness, which is kind of, it's uncharacteristically sweet, but in a really nice way, not in this strange granular way of A124. So it has the spice, it has the sweet, and a good mouthfeel, good palate development. I would say for me, I don't really have a dog in the fight between these three batches. I would say for me, A124, it's not, I don't know, it might even be last place between all of these. It's not a bad batch. This is just not really my profile. I would probably take the sweetness and great drinking experience of C923 first. B523, even though it's kind of dead in the water, I like how balanced it is. And A124, it's just kind of in this weird no man's land between all of them. The true test of this is going to be to do a blind flight. I have C922 over here. I don't think I need to compare this in this video, but the true test is going to be a blind flight with A124, C923, and maybe C922, maybe B523. So stay tuned. That might show up sometime here on the channel. But for me, do I recommend A124? I mean, if you like Larceny Barrel Proof, if you liked B523, but you want a little more pizzazz, okay, sure. No more than SRP on this. No secondary pricing, please. And if you're somebody that kind of avoids these and only wants to get those special batches, I don't think this is a special batch. It doesn't come off that way to me. I would still go back in time and scour shelves for this C922, which I just think is amazing. Maple syrup and pancakes. Smells so freaking good. But that's going to do it, guys. Let me know if you've had the chance to try this Larceny A124. Stay tuned for those videos on the channel. And also, I can't remember if I plugged this already, but the Patreon for Drums and Drams has exploded along with the channel over the last 10, 12, 14 days. So if you're interested in being a part of the Drums and Drams Patreon community, it's only $5 or $10 a month. 5, you get everything. 10, you just get a giveaway entry every month for great bottles or great sample packs. Come check it out. It's turning into a great community, very much more engaged at this point than it used to be. And I couldn't be more excited for what's happening here on the channel. But tomorrow, 1924, Old Forester. Come back for that. Can't wait. It's going to be an interesting review. Cheers, guys. And I will see you throughout this week on the drums. Wait till the end of the video to screw it up. I'll see you this week on Drums and Drams. I need a drink.